Is this thing on? Hello.
Oh,
Good morning.
my
Welcome
goodness.
back to the Saturday show. I'm Christian Esparza, Alex Napoles. With me, in case you missed it, we've been out for 2 weeks. We got booted for NCAA tournament coverage.
We were on vacation, man.
I wish I was on vacation.
I know, me too.
I haven't been in the chair in front of the mic in a couple weeks, basically since the tournament started. So it's been a minute, but glad to be back. Glad to catch up on this crazy tournament. A lot of fun things to talk about.
I don't know how to act. I don't know where to put my hands. I don't know where to put the mic.
I know.
It's weird, man. I don't feel comfortable being back.
Yeah.
But we're back.
We're back. Let's get it.
Let's do it.
How's your week been though?
Good week, man. I don't necessarily have a highlight. It's just been actually that's a lie. I went to the hockey game on Thursday.
Oh, me too.
Yeah, I was at the Kings game. You were there?
Yeah, I was
nice.
there.
What
Yeah.
section were you in?
Well, my friend has season tickets
Nice.
in the lower bowl, so I mooch off him sometimes. Shout out to them. So yeah, we were. I think Portal X or something.
Okay.
I don't know what section.
Okay, no worries. I was up at the top, man. I was up in the upper bowl watching the game. It was fun. It was exciting to be out there at
Yeah.
Delta Center again and to be able to catch some hockey, man.
What a tough game, and we'll talk a little bit about it later, but it's crazy how hockey works because I felt like, and you can chime in, Utah was a better team in that game. For probably 90% of the game, they outshot LA by a lot. LA's goalie made a lot of really good stops. Unfortunately, There was 44 seconds of ice time where Utah had 2 killer turnovers.
Yeah.
One was just a bad pass. They were both essentially bad passes, and they led to breakaways by LA one-on-one with the goaltender. And love Veggie, love what he's done this season for Utah, but it's really hard when you're one-on-one as a goaltender. Not much he could do there. So they ultimately lost 4-2. LA had an empty net goal, and Utah scored in the final 7 seconds. So essentially it's a 3-1 game. I don't know.
I did go to the game with some LA Kings fans. And the Kings fans that I was with, they mentioned, they were like, don't worry, the Kings are just sitting back, letting them kind of tire themselves out, and then in the third quarter, they're going to pounce. And sure enough,
Really?
in the third quarter, yeah.
Interesting.
He called it, man.
Yeah, there were a lot of Kings fans there.
There were.
And like I said, so my friend has season tickets, so I think everybody in that section, or most of them, are season ticket holders. And if you think about it, a lot of them can't go to every game, right? So they sell their tickets, and a lot of times they're selling their tickets to opposing fans. So it was funny. We were surrounded by Kings fans. There were a lot.
Yeah, I was honestly surprised with the amount of King fans that I saw at Delta Center. But I mean, it makes sense. It's one of the closer, quote unquote, closer teams that you could cheer for. Before Utah Hockey Club became a thing,
And it's an LA team.
And it's
so
an
they've
LA
got a big
team.
fan base.
Absolutely.
And then just on top of that, that's kind of been one of the, I don't know if I want to say complaints, but things that people have noticed about these Utah Hockey Club games is because there are a lot of opposing fans because, this is the first year we've had an NHL team here. A lot of hockey fans in the state of Utah that are already fans of another team. So when their team comes to town, they're going to go. I saw one thing that was really funny, though. I saw a custom-made, I don't know if it was legit or a knockoff one, a custom Utah Hockey Club jersey that said Gretzky on the back.
Oh, nice.
That was really funny.
Wouldn't it be awesome to have someone like Gretzky playing for this team, man?
Oh, yeah.
That'd be cool.
That would be cool.
That would be very, very cool.
But, yeah, so that's cool that we were both at the game Thursday. I think
didn't know you
Hans went as well.
Yeah.
It was a big one. Unfortunately, they lost, and it was basically the nail in the coffin for their playoff hopes. If it wasn't already a long shot, it's a 0.1% chance now, so not mathematically eliminated, Alex.
So you're saying there's a chance.
There is a chance.
That's all you need.
Sean, producing behind the glass. You have a good week?
Yeah, it was good. I was also at the game.
No way.
Yeah.
Did we all just go to?
Yeah,
did we all just go to this game?
Didn't run into each other at all.
Sounds like it.
It was fun. That was the highlight of my week for sure.
There you go, man.
Yeah. That was a fun highlight for me. I would also say rest in peace, Val Kilmer. That sucks. That's a really sad story.
Yeah.
So the day that he passed away, I showed my wife Tombstone. She says she liked it. I think she's just being nice. it's a really dude movie, like cowboys just
Right.
shooting at each other. So I enjoyed it.
I thought it was an April Fool's joke, man.
Oh,
when I
yeah.
first saw it, because
That
it happened
sucks.
on April 1st.
Yeah.
And so I didn't believe it at first, but then I saw more reporting and more news outlets covering it, and so I was like, oh, he actually passed away.
You ever seen Tombstone?
I haven't. No. I've never
Oh
seen it.
man, it's a good movie. It's cool.
I'll add it to my list.
It's,
I got some homework this weekend, man. I already have one on the list from Lloyd.
Oh yeah, Lloyd likes to hand out. movie homework.
Lloyd gives me movies because I'm uncultured and I just haven't seen them. So
the thing
I have a
is,
homework list.
There's a generational gap between us and Lloyd. So like, Lloyd will pull some random movie from like the '80s and be like, "Oh, you've never seen that?" And it's like, dude, no, I haven't.
I gotta catch up, man. I'll add Tombstone to my list.
Tombstone's cool, and Val Kilmer's
There you
character
go.
in Tombstone is like, I don't know how they did it, but he's probably one of the coolest movie characters of all time. Like they talk, you hear the term scene stealer, and Val Kilmer is like the penultimate like example of that. Like every word of dialogue that he has in that movie, it's just like, oh, he's so cool.
I'll add it to my
It's
list.
a good one.
I'll
It's
add it
cool.
to my list. I'll check it out and I'll let you know. I'll let you know what I think about it, man.
Sean, you've seen it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love that movie.
It's cool. It's cool. All right. Well, glad that we can catch up. I know it's been a while, but let's get into some sports talk. Gotta start with the NCAA tournament, so let's hit that. Let's get it, folks. Let's talk some NCAA basketball. We've got the Final Four starting today. Obviously, Florida and Florida and Auburn playing at 4:09, and then Houston and Duke tonight at 6:49. I don't know why those tip-off times are weird, but I think it's been a really fun and entertaining tournament so far. Alex, where do you want to start with this?
Before we get into the actual games and before we get into our Cooper flag, can I just say, if you predicted the Final Four, you can't brag about it this year. It's all number one seeds.
I guess.
And I've gone on social media and I've seen people be like, oh yeah, I guess the Final Four. It's like, bro, you probably went chalk, you got lucky, you picked all number one seeds.
Yeah.
It's not impressive for you to predict the Final Four this year.
Okay.
But they are the best basketball teams.
Yeah, and that's the
For sure.
thing is like I picked Duke in my bracket.
Yeah.
I picked Duke versus Florida because those were the two best teams
Right.
at the time the tournament started. And then you have Auburn, who was number one in the country for a very long time, and then Houston, who I don't know if they were ever ranked number one, but they have been very good all year. So yeah, I get it. But at the same time, like my Final Four, I think I had Gonzaga and Michigan State. So I didn't quite go chalk, but like, yeah, I don't know. And this can open up a deeper conversation as well. I mean, it's been a big talking point. Like, is this where we're going with the NIL and stuff, where these Cinderella schools, a lot of the smaller schools that are never going to be higher than, maybe an 8th seed at best, they can't hold on to their top talent. Meanwhile, the big schools at the top, they're just going to keep eating it up. So
I think eventually it'll even out a little bit.
you think so?
I think, yes. I mean, I feel like, I don't know if you agree, Christian, but I feel like we've seen a little bit more parity on the football side of things. I mean, obviously there's still the big hitters, the blue bloods of football. You're still going to have that in basketball. You're still going to have your Dukes. You're still going to have your Houstons, etc. But I do think at some point, eventually, it'll level itself out. And the talent will be kind of spread apart, and we'll continue to see Cinderellas. I don't believe the Stephen A. talk where college basketball is ruined because of NIL and the portal. I just think this year happens to be a year where you have the higher seeds were the better teams.
Yeah, I don't know. It's interesting to me because one thing that and I'm upset this tweet didn't go viral. I thought it was really good research. I put a tweet out a couple weeks ago, right when the transfer portal opened. You look at like the top 10, let's go top 15, heck, even top 20 players in the transfer portal right now. We'll keep it top 15. If you look at the top 15 players in the transfer portal right now for college basketball, over half of them are from mid-major schools or non-Power 4 schools. That's concerning to me because you think of schools like a Utah State, for example. That's a team that it's a very good basketball school. They are going to have the opportunity to compete in the tournament every single year. However, once they make the tournament, they're going to have to fight like hell to keep their guys because they get put on a national stage. All these bigger schools come calling, and I don't know details. I don't know if they're, currently having to fight right now, but I would imagine that schools are sniffing around and saying, hey,
there's no doubt.
We can give you way more money than anybody in Logan can.
If I'm John Smith from VCU and I have a great tournament and Florida comes calling,
yeah.
Obviously, I'm going to look at for all players, you're going to look at the money.
Right.
Who's going to be offering the top bills?
And I don't blame them.
But at the same time, I do think that eventually we're going to get to a point where even if it's not the smaller schools holding talent, I do believe at the power 4, 5 level, whatever you want to call it, I do think eventually the talent will be spread out.
There are always going to be good basketball players at mid-major schools. It's just a matter of kind of replenishing them after you lose
That's the key.
Your talent.
That's the key.
But there always will be and there always has been good talent
exactly
at the quote-unquote mid-major schools. So,
and then I think there's going to be players from, for example, an Auburn where there's going to be a really solid freshman or sophomore that's riding the bench because the starters are so stacked.
Yeah.
Right? He's not in the rotation, and he could go transfer out to another school.
That's a good point too.
There's talent to be spread out, and there's talent to go around for everybody if guys make the right choices.
Well, they're 19-year-old kids, so I wouldn't count on that.
There you go.
But no, I think it's been a fun tournament. We got to talk BYU for a second. Making it to the Sweet 16, we haven't had a chance to talk about this. Huge accomplishment for Kevin Young in his first year here. Obviously, everybody here knows the story. BYU has not been to the Sweet 16 since Jimmer Fredette, and this year was only the third time in program history. So that's awesome. I personally was really impressed by Yegor Demon in their first 2 games. That Alabama game was tough. Alabama having a historic shooting night from the field, there's not much you can do about that. But the first 2 games, I thought Yegor played extremely well. Obviously, their first game, all of a sudden he was a sniper from 3 out of nowhere. So that was great to see. But I was really impressed with his ball handling and his ability to split double teams and get to the rim and just how easy he made it look. And I think that's where people talk about his potential and why people are so high on him. He's probably going to be a first-round draft pick in June, maybe even a lottery pick. And that's why. He just makes it look easy. And there are a lot of things he has to work on. He has to make his shot more consistent. I think he needs to work. There were a couple plays where he got trapped and double-teamed and turned the ball over. Don't want to see that. But, man, there were times, like I'm saying, where taking it from the top of the key and just getting to the basket in like 2 steps, carrying the ball over guys' heads, and then beautiful finish at the rim. Like, man, that's it.
There's no denying that the talent is there for him, but I think people really wanted a lot more consistency from him throughout the course of the season.
Which is hard as a freshman.
Right.
But yes, he showed the flashes, but then there were some lows as well. And that's why there is the question of will he come back or will he go to the draft? That's why it's a question at all.
Well, and then if I'm an NBA scout and if I'm looking at him and trying to make the decision of whether or not to draft him, I wonder how much that plays into the concern part from an NBA scout's point of view. If you didn't see the consistency at the college level, how does that impact your draft stock heading into the NBA draft?
Yeah, I get that. But the funny thing is, especially with the NBA, they love drafting one-and-done players. And the reality is, like, any freshman is going to have ups and downs, besides Cooper Flagg, who we'll talk about in a second. Any freshman is going to have inconsistencies in their game. I don't know how much NBA players care about that as much as they care about the P word, potential. Like, they love potential to the point where they'll draft some 19-year-old who's barely shown anything. I'm not talking about Yegor in this case. I'm just talking about, in general, a one-and-done player. They'll draft them because of their quote-unquote potential over like a 4-year starter who has been consistent all 4 years just because.
It's true.
So I think that's a funny thing. But as far as Yegor, I think he helped himself in the tournament.
He did.
All in all.
I think he definitely did. But if I'm a BYU fan, I'm just imagining and salivating over Yegor and AJ DeBonsa playing together next season, man.
That would be cool.
That'd be phenomenal.
Yeah, that would be great. And we'll see what happens. I would imagine Kevin Young wants to know sooner rather than later. So, I don't know.
I'm hoping he stays, man.
That would be cool. We had Kristen Peak on with Jake and Ben earlier this week. You can go find it wherever you get your podcast. She is an NBA draft analyst for NBA.com. And she basically said, look, nobody comes overseas to play college basketball forever. Like the ultimate goal is to go to the NBA.
Absolutely.
Me personally, knock on wood, but there's always the chance of an injury returning. And you would hate to see that. So I think right now where Yegor sits as far as a conversation of borderline lottery pick, go and get it. Like, yes, there's a chance that you could potentially help your draft stock, make a couple million at BYU next year, and then be maybe a top 10 pick in 2026. But, that's an unknown. There's also the chance that you get hurt and you can never play basketball again. And I wouldn't want to risk that. If I were in Yegor's shoes, go get it right now. But we'll see, because he has said that he's thinking about, that there's a reason that he hasn't announced it yet. He's thinking about it. The thought of playing next to AJ DeBonsa, the number one recruit in the country, there's going to be a lot of eyes on BYU basketball next year, and Yegor is thinking about being a part of that.
I think there'd be, again, a phenomenal combo. All the eyes would be on BYU basketball, and I think that's exactly what BYU fans want.
Yeah.
It'd be amazing. But at the same time, it seems like it's high risk, high reward, because if you do come back, you get injured. What does that do to your career?
Yeah. Like I said, there's a chance that, worst case scenario, you never play basketball again because you went back one more year. And you would hate to see that. And I know that's such a small chance, but it's like that. There's always a chance of that. So
that got dark.
Yeah, sorry. We'll see, though. It's an interesting decision. And I wouldn't blame Yegor either way, whatever he decides. But
absolutely.
Let's talk about the games we have today, Alex. Out of these 4 teams, who have you been most impressed with? Who are you picking to win it all?
I feel like the easy answer for who I've been most impressed with is Duke.
Mm-hmm.
Duke is phenomenal, beating teams by over 20-plus points throughout the course of the tournament. I think that's a really great accomplishment. But I've been incredibly impressed with Houston and their defense.
Yeah.
Just as we were during the Big 12 tournament, and how good defensively that Houston team is. I think between both games today for the Final Four, Houston and Duke is by far the most intriguing matchup.
I wish that was the championship game.
Yes, and because I think it'd be a phenomenal championship game.
Yeah, because Duke came in and they shut down Alabama, coming off of that, again, historic shooting performance against BYU. They came in red hot, and Duke just shut them down. They scored, what did they score? 113 against BYU. They scored 65 against Duke. So that's literally almost half of their points.
Insane.
So Duke's got defense too. But Houston has offense too, is the thing. Like these two teams are both really good on both ends of the ball. And I mean, there's a reason they're both number 1 seeds in this tournament. But 2 of the better college basketball teams we've seen in a really long time.
And it's also, again, like we mentioned it at the top of the segment, these are by far the 4 best college basketball teams in the entire country. They've shown it throughout the course of the season. They're continuing to show it in the tournament. I have my doubts about Auburn. I don't know if Auburn will be able to get over that hump. It seems like they've always, whether it was, a mental thing, whether it was just something, they were missing the key ingredient to get over that hump. They finally made it to a Final Four after, getting eliminated by Yale last year in that crazy upset. But Florida, to me, has been the best team in the SEC the entire season.
They kind of came out of nowhere, too.
Yeah, and
I don't know if
really
people
did.
were expecting them to be this good.
They came out of nowhere. They've impressed just about anybody in the country. Florida, to me, will take down Auburn, and then I'll have Duke taking down Houston.
That's what my bracket says.
That's what mine says, too.
All right. You heard it here first, folks. And then, Monday, Duke over Florida?
Give me Cooper Flagg, man.
Oh, my gosh. How phenomenal has he been? I love this because there was a lot of talk this year about Cooper Flagg and where he ranks as a prospect, and I hate the term generational because that gets used every year, and that's literally the exact opposite of what that word means.
There's always a generational talent.
And I don't even know if I want to call Cooper Flagg generational, but at the same time, you look at what he's doing, and if I think about it, I haven't seen this in at least 10 years, right? I don't know. Zion was really good at Duke, but he wasn't doing this.
No, I think Cooper Flagg has been on a different level than Zion.
What I love about this, too, a lot of people don't know, Cooper Flagg just turned 18 in December.
Yeah, man.
He just turned 18 in December. He was actually supposed to come out next year with AJ DeBonsa and Darren Peterson and the Boozer twins. He reclassified to this year. And because of that, there was a lot of talk about, where does DeBonsa rank versus Flagg? If they were both coming out this year, who would NBA scouts draft? And again, going back to the quote-unquote potential thing, like there are a lot of people at the beginning of the season still picking AJ DeBonsa. And now more people are leaning Flagg. I think I would lean Flagg just because we know that he can produce. We haven't seen DeBonsa play college basketball yet. But there's still a conversation. I don't know.
It seems like recency bias almost because, obviously the tournament's happening right now.
Yeah.
And we're watching in real time what Cooper Flagg is doing.
And it's historic.
And I promise you, I can almost guarantee you that next season, when we get to tournament time, I strongly feel like BYU will be back in the tournament, and we're going to be having a similar conversation about AJ DeBonsa.
You think so?
I think so.
I see. That's tough because I think Cooper Flagg is setting the bar too high for DeBonsa and Darren Peterson and the Boozer twins. I think that's tough because, again, we're talking about how impressive this is. Like, we have not seen a freshman lead a team like this far into the tournament in a very long time.
And next year, I promise you, we're going to have the conversations of comparing DeBonsa, comparing the Boozer twins, comparing all the top prospects next season, comparing him to what Cooper Flagg did this season.
Yeah.
If Cooper Flagg goes out a national championship this week,
oh my gosh,
the bar is really, really high for all those guys.
Yeah. Well, it already is. I mean, he led his team, Cooper Flagg, led Duke in points, rebounds, assists, steals, and blocks. As a freshman, that's just unheard of. So, look, I'm stoked for DeBonsa. I'm stoked for Darren Peterson. I'm stoked for the Boozer twins because of their somewhat local ties. But, man, I would be shocked if they played at this level next year, to be honest.
And I think for Jazz fans, and really any team that has a possibility in that lottery to get the number 1 overall pick, I think you should be excited. I think you should be getting excited at the prospect of Cooper Flagg, man. You see the comparisons being thrown around online about him, playing similarly to a Kawhi Leonard.
Yeah.
Similarly to a Jason Tatum. Those are two arguably gigantic superstars in the NBA.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Jason Tatum's fresh off an NBA championship.
Really good.
And so to see those comparisons being thrown around online saying that this kid is playing like a Kawhi Leonard, like a Jason Tatum, that should be exciting for just about anybody that has a chance at the lottery.
It's crazy to me because we knew before this college basketball season even started that Cooper Flagg was going to be the number 1 pick. But since, November, October, whenever it started, our expectations have just been blown out of the water.
Absolutely.
And he's outperformed what anybody thought he would do. So I've been super impressed with Coop. Even if they lose today, that doesn't affect his draft stock at all. He's still going number one. That doesn't diminish anything that he's done. But I can't wait to see what they do tonight. Again, 6:49 tip-off, Duke, Houston. 4:09 tip-off, Auburn, Florida. And we're going to have that here on The Zone. That's going to be streaming because we've got so much other things going on today. But we will have it. So you can catch that here on the KSL Sports Zone. Let's hit a break. Coming back on the other side, we can talk hockey. We'll talk some hockey.
Let's do it.
Coming up next. This is the Saturday Show, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Here's a pass. Ovechkin scores! The Great Eight stand side by side with the Great One.
Huge! There it is, Alex. The Great Eight, Alexander Ovechkin, has tied Wayne Gretzky's record, 894 career NHL goals.
How amazing is that, man?
That's crazy because for a while there was talk about that being one of the sports records that was unbreakable.
Yeah. And now in real time, we're getting to witness history because Ovechkin has tied it.
894.
894 goals, man. That's
awesome. It's crazy. But so I was looking at this the other day. I thought this was hilarious. This is a well-known fact. I don't know if you know it. Wayne Gretzky, all-time NHL points leader, 2,857 points. Did you know that you take away all 894 of his goals and he would still be the all-time point leader in the NHL?
I did hear about this
with just
week.
His assists.
Yeah. I did hear about that this week.
That's crazy.
It's insane, man.
Yeah. It's you think about, like John Stockton's assist record.
Right.
Jerry Rice's career receiving yards, and Wayne Gretzky's points record. Like those three records will probably never be broken. Ever. But the goals, shout out to Ovechkin. It's really cool to see this happening again as we're learning this sport, as we're becoming hockey fans here in Salt Lake City, in the state of Utah. We get to see history. So that's awesome. Ovechkin, 894 goals. They play again tomorrow, I believe. I think he's going to break it. Tomorrow.
Yeah, absolutely. I remember having conversations with our guy Jason, one of the other producers here, and I always ask every time I see him, I'd always ask him.
He's a Capitals fan.
He's exactly. And so I'd always ask him, be like, "Hey, you think it's gonna happen this year? You think it's gonna happen this year?" And he'd be like, "Oh, I don't know, man. I don't know." And sure enough, one goal away from being the all-time leading goal scorer in the NHL.
They play tomorrow. They play the Islanders at 10:30, so I'm sure that game's going to have a lot of eyes on it because we're all expecting him to. 41 goals this season for Ovechkin. That's third in the NHL. He also has 27 assists and 68 overall points. And the Capitals are good. So let's talk Utah Hockey Club, though. We were all three of us were at the game Thursday, funny enough. We didn't run into each other, but tough loss, 4-2 for Utah. Basically ending their playoff hopes, whatever chances there were. And I was just reflecting on this season a little bit and all the ups and downs. And I think all in all, everybody involved with the franchise is extremely happy with how things have went, considering they didn't have Sean Durzi for most of the year. Dylan Guenther and Logan Cooley missed extensive time. Your starting goaltender coming into the season, Connor Ingram, he missed a lot of time between an injury and then, personal issues there. So they had to go to Vejmelka, who wasn't planning on seeing a lot of time. And now all of a sudden he's starting 19, 20 games in a row for Utah.
Yeah, man.
So all of that considered, to ever be in the conversation for playoffs, I think is a huge success. And ultimately they are going to miss out. So that sucks from our standpoint. But there's a lot to be excited about going into next year. Thinking about Dylan Guenther and Logan Cooley especially, superstars in the making.
There's plenty to be excited about with this team, man. And I know. I mean, obviously, we're disappointed. We want hockey. We want playoff hockey, and that atmosphere here in the state of Utah. We wanted them to make it real bad. But there is a lot to kind of hang your hat on and be proud of for this season. 0.1% chance. I mean, they're not mathematically eliminated, but it is a little bit basically said and done for the Utah Hockey Club this season.
Yeah.
But again, I think there's nothing to be disappointed about. I think there's nothing to be upset about, because I think that there's a lot of positives going for this Utah Hockey Club team. We heard from Andre Turney yesterday on JJ and Alex.
Yeah.
And even with the loss, and even with a loss that basically kind of put that final nail, he was still extremely positive. He was still extremely. He said it himself. He was proud of the way the team played against the Kings, and he felt like for a majority of that hockey game, they were the better side.
Yeah, and I think they were, and I think all three of us would probably agree. Looking at this season, there was a stretch in late December they lost 5 games in a row.
Yeah.
A stretch in late January where they lost 5 games in a row. So you can point to that right there and be like, okay, that's kind of that's what separates the playoff teams from the non-playoff teams. And again, when you're dealing with health issues, obviously hockey is a very physical sport, so that's always going to be a part of the game. But it's like, yeah, if they were fully healthy, you would think that they won't suffer extended losing streaks again next season. So just looking at little things like that, as far as where they can improve. Another talking point this year, obviously, a big extension is probably on the table for Logan Cooley. That's going to be awesome to see him get paid. But then they're going to have a lot of money left over to go big game hunting in free agency. And unlike the Jazz, I'm fully expecting something. I'm fully expecting them to take a big swing. And I think there are players that are going to be bought in to coming to Salt Lake City, because we've heard nothing but good things from players around the league, really. Like, You'll see our guy Cole will talk to a lot of players in opposing locker rooms, and a lot of the times it's like, hey, what do you think of the environment here in Utah? And almost every time it's like, oh, it's awesome. Like, they love hockey here, and you can tell. Like, even being on the opposing team, like, they have something. So I think they are going to be an attractive free agent destination, and we'll see if GMBA Bill Armstrong is going to make a big move.
I feel like they should, and I feel like, I mean, obviously they could. And even when you hear from a guy like Cole, who's very ingrained with the Utah Hockey Club, and even he feels that they want to make a move, and they want to potentially bring in somebody to really put them over that line, because the conversations that I've seen online, and the conversations that I've seen over the course of the last week, despite the loss to the Kings, I think a lot of people feel like this team is really close.
It's close, yeah. So if you can
very, very close.
If you can get that one more piece that puts you over the edge, and I'm not saying it's going to make them Stanley Cup contenders overnight, but it's like that's the difference between, one more star player is going to be the difference between missing the playoffs and making the playoffs. So they're right there.
They have the cap for it. They have the flexibility for it this off season. So I'm excited to see what they decide to do. I think there's a lot, again, to be proud of for this year. I think getting more, passing your points total from last season is a step in the right direction.
Yeah, they're going up and up and up.
Exactly.
Ever since they began the rebuild, they have slowly scored more and more points. And that's a great point there, Alex, is, ultimately they are going to finish this year with more points than they finished with last year. So, again, a step in the right direction is all that matters, and that's a trend that you want to see them continue, and I believe they will.
And it's also, according to Cole, the most points that this team has registered since 2018.
Wow.
So they're trending up.
Yeah, they're trending up. Again, yeah, because they tore it down, and It's interesting. Again, they're always going to be compared to the Jazz because it's the other franchise here, but the Jazz are full-blown rebuild right now, full-blown tank. And this team, the Utah Hockey Club, that's something they started when they were the Arizona Coyotes. They tore everything down. They traded away all of their good players, stockpiled tons of draft picks. They did what the Jazz are doing. We just didn't get to see the beginning of it.
Right.
So they are nearing the end of that rebuild. They are where I would expect the Jazz to be in, let's say, 2028, 2027, 2028. Hopefully not much longer than that. It's a long process. It's a painful process,
right.
but we are seeing the fruit of that labor paying off.
Well, and again, to put it more into perspective, in that 2021-2022 season, the Coyotes registered 57 points with only 25 wins.
Yeah, that's bad.
So now, again, contrast it to where we are today. There's not only have we, I mean, obviously we weren't paying attention to the Coyotes when they were the Coyotes until really the news started to come out and the noise started to come out that the Arizona was potentially relocating to Utah.
Yeah.
But we missed those first couple of years, and you know, you look at the points totals, you look at that situation, and you see the progress in the standings. But now, I mean, you can even see the growth from where this team was at the beginning of the season to where they are now, and it's positive. It's something to get you excited for in the future, and there's so many young guys, young talent that can really step up and become really great stars for this league and for this team, man.
Yeah. Yeah, I can't wait to see what happens. Another thing I wanted to point to, I should have brought this up earlier when I was talking about areas that should be improved next season. Only 16 home wins for this team.
Yes.
That is one of the lower marks in the NHL. Vancouver has 15 home wins. Chicago has 14 and San Jose has 12. But Utah is right there towards the bottom as far as home wins. And again, dealing with injuries, dealing with being in a new city, there's a lot of background noise that probably contributed to that. That's a number that I would expect to go up next season, even if nothing changed. But then again, you talk about bringing in hopefully another big name or two in free agency, and that's something that could improve. Just wrapping up on this conversation quick, one thing I want to mention, because everybody wants to know about the name. Cole Bagley joins Jake and Ben every Friday. He was talking about, he's not breaking any news, but he said if he had to guess, he would hope that they have a name by the draft.
Hey,
just
there you
because
go.
of how much it makes sense to, you announce the player's name, they go up on the stage and they hold up the cool jersey.
Yeah.
It would make sense to have, the logo, the name, everything right there. So that's what he is guessing. But again, that's a guess. It's not, not any news. But I agree that would make sense.
Do you know how awesome it would be for, the NHL to go out and be like, oh, and with the so-and-so pick of the NHL draft, the Utah Hockey Club selects so-and-so, and then so-and-so walks up onto the stage, and then he whips out the sweater, and the sweater has the name. That'd be so awesome, man.
That would be cool.
Oh, that would be phenomenal reveal.
Unfortunately, there's no such thing as a surprise anymore.
No.
Things
it would
get leaked.
It would get out before, yes.
But I'm with you. That would be awesome.
Oh, I'd love to see that, man.
Yeah. Oh, I can't wait.
And real quick, to wrap up the hockey conversation before we go to break, man. Ryan Smith putting hockey at the forefront of the state.
Yes. Yeah, thanks for bringing that up.
Building these rinks to help the youth development. How awesome is that, man?
Ryan Smith has pledged, $10 million to help build more ice hockey rinks in the state of Utah, or more ice rinks, I guess. He is willing to donate up to $500,000 per rink for up to 20 rinks, which is $10 million. And there's a lot of places I think could use one. Obviously, you look between Salt Lake and Provo, there's basically nothing there, right? So I would imagine getting a couple in maybe the Sandy, Draper area, maybe Lehigh area. I think we could use one in the North Davis County area, maybe Layton. I'd love to see Brigham City get one because between Ogden and Logan, there's no rinks there. So, yeah, 20 rinks is a lot. And that's a huge, huge commitment from Ryan Smith and his group. And it just shows that they're serious about it. You know, when they talk about wanting to grow hockey in the state, they're not just talking. Like they're not just saying it to sound cool.
Yeah.
And you know, gain a vote or whatever. Like they mean it. And they will, not only they mean it, they will go and do it.
Absolutely. I think the greatest thing to come out of this season, even if it's not necessarily the hockey club growth, but I think the best thing to come out of this NHL season for as far as the Utah standpoint goes, it's just how much hockey has grown in the last year, man.
In the state?
Here in Utah, yeah.
Well, you look at the Kings, one of the reasons they're kind of a big deal, they've got Trevor Lewis. I think he's the only player in the NHL that was born in Utah. I was doing some research on him the other day. He went to Brighton High School for, I think, his freshman year, and then he moved to Colorado.
Yeah.
So it's like he finished his high school career in Colorado. So he's not even like a through and through Utah guy, right? But with these efforts from Ryan Smith, obviously it's going to take a while to get going, but I'd imagine, let's just say 20 years from now,
right?
Hopefully there's some more NHL players from the state of Utah because of this, and you can directly trace it back to this. And that's awesome because you look at what Junior Jazz has become, and a lot of people point out, every church has a gym here. Like basketball is a very big deal in the state of Utah, and in part thanks to the Junior Jazz program. And then again, gyms being accessible to everybody. You got to have the accessibility first. And with more rinks, with more ice time available, that's definitely going to lead to more hockey players.
Yeah, there's no doubt that Ryan Smith is the perfect guy to lead.
Yeah, he's a go-getter.
The hockey efforts here in Utah.
He's a doer.
Absolutely.
When he says something, he does it.
Yeah.
So I
love it.
Yeah. All right, let's take a break. Coming up next on the other side, we're going to talk technical fouls. Ja Morant is at it again. Got to talk about that next. Stay with us. This is the Saturday Show, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
You switch the radio to some modern music show. That's a technical foul. If you touch the thermostat,
you'll get hit with a bat.
'Cause that's a technical foul.
You will feel my wrath.
That's a technical foul.
Personal foul, 69, offense. He was giving them the business.
A technical foul.
Welcome back to the Saturday Show. I'm Christian Esparza, Alex Napoles with me as always. Last segment we were talking hockey. Alex totally forgot to mention Utah Hockey Club plays today at 5. They host the Winnipeg Jets. So go out and catch the game. There's only a couple, 3 home games left, counting tonight. But if you can't get out and make it, you can always listen here on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. That's going to be a fun game. The Jets are a very good team, one of the best teams in the league. But I know Utah can hang with them. They do. They have been hanging with some of the top teams consistently. They've had some rough games. That one against the Lightning a couple weeks ago was pretty rough, but they turn around and they play the Panthers the next day really well. So Utah can hang with the top dogs. It's going to be a fun one.
They can. And again, another reason to be excited for this Utah Hockey Club team.
Let's talk technical fouls now, one of our favorite segments that we always do. We get to talk about some of the funnier stories in sports or wacky things that happen. Do you want to go first?
Have you ever seen a groin kick in the NBA?
Yeah, I've seen a lot. Most of them from Draymond Green. A couple of them from Kelly Olynyk. Well,
let's talk about the one from Dillon Brooks on our guy Colin Sexton here for the Utah Jazz, man.
Dillon Brooks, notorious.
What a
let's just say heel, right? He's a heel figure in the NBA. That's what he does, but he does it well.
I think he's one of the most disliked players from the Utah Jazz fan base.
Yeah,
I think you can say that. But Utah Jazz play the Rockets earlier in the week, and Dillon Brooks clearly just throwing a kick to Colin Sexton, hitting him in the groin, and then didn't get thrown from the game. Just got a technical, but then
he did get a technical.
Technical for it, but then got suspended later for his 16th technical foul of the season.
Oh, that's funny.
But Collins, I mean, you go and you watch the video, and Colin Sexton's trying to pick up the ball. Dillon Brooks is jumping up in the air, and clearly just sticks his leg out, gives him a nice little kick to the groin, and Dillon Brooks, man, again, one of the least liked players for the Utah Jazz fan base.
Yeah, and he's always been disliked, right? Going back to his days with the Grizzlies, but that's what he does. That's his role, and he plays it well. It's funny that he got a real technical foul during the game, and then we're giving him another one, stacking him up.
He gets ours. That's 17 now on the year.
Speaking of the Grizzlies, got to go with Ja Morant here. In case you missed it earlier in the week, the Grizzlies, basically Ja Morant and Buddy Hield were going back and forth, doing the finger gun celebration at each other.
Right.
I think Buddy Hield did it first on the Warriors, and then Ja Morant did it back. And then the NBA released a memo, essentially a warning to Ja Morant. They're saying, hey, Ja, you can't do that. You, of all people in the NBA, can't do that. In case you don't know, Ja Morant got suspended last year for, 25, 30 games because he first he brought a gun to a strip club, was waving it around in a video. Then he had a gun in a car, basically multiple instances of waving a gun around, and the NBA didn't like that. So he ultimately got suspended for it. Fast forward again this week, does the finger gun celebration. The NBA gives him a warning. Hey, don't do that. You can't do that. We don't want you promoting that. You are supposed to be one of our faces of the league. We do not want you promoting gun violence. The next game, what does he do, Alex?
He gives the NBA an old slap to the face, man.
He does the finger guns again.
Does it again.
Literally the game after they tell him not to do that. So he knows that he's not supposed to be doing this. He knows that the NBA doesn't want him doing this. He just does not care. So he got fined $75,000.
I fully think he did it just to basically give the NBA a nice little middle finger, man.
No, I agree. He doesn't care, and that's the frustrating part. I mean, this is a guy that you think back to their playoff series against the Jazz.
Yeah.
I think that was his second year in the NBA. He was supposed to be like the next face of the league. He was supposed to be one of the next guys. And you think about what he's doing to his career right now, and it's just sad. He doesn't care. And that's the most frustrating part.
For a second there, look, it seemed like he was doing better. It seemed like he was going to get better. But I think this just goes to prove that he doesn't care.
It blows my mind that this is a guy that basically had everything he could ever want.
Yeah.
He, again, one of the rising stars in the league. The NBA was really promoting him. Again, they're looking for their next face of the league once LeBron James is out. They need somebody to step up, and Ja was supposed to be one of those guys. But he keeps doing it to himself to where he again, does not care, and that's the frustrating part. He doesn't understand. No, he does understand. That's why it's so aggravating. He does understand what he's doing, and he doesn't care.
It's disappointing. It really is.
It is very disappointing.
It's disappointing. He was supposed to be, the world was laid out in front of him.
Yeah.
And he just doesn't seem to care. He doesn't seem to be in that mindset where, there's kids looking up to him, man.
Yeah.
And yeah, he just continues to go be a little punk sometimes.
Before we wrap, got to mention this real quick. I was sent an article from the Standard Examiner from Ogden. There's some controversy, Alex, in the high school wrestling scene.
Oh.
I know you're involved with the high school athletics. You do a lot of play-by-play. Have you heard about this at all?
I have not. No, this is the first time I'm hearing about it.
So let's go back to the state wrestling tournament earlier this year. Long story short, a box elder wrestler was wrestling a kid from Spanish Fork.
Okay.
And a bite mark appeared on the box elder wrestler's arm.
Oh.
The Spanish Fork wrestler gets suspended. They take points away from Spanish Fork, and then they reviewed it, unsuspended the player, gave Spanish Fork the points back, and I think Spanish Fork might have ended up winning state.
So they reviewed it but gave it back.
Yeah,
even though there's a bite mark on.
There's a bite mark. I'm looking at the picture right now of the bite mark on his forearm.
Oh.
But apparently, I think, according to this article, they reviewed it and basically said the kid didn't react when he got bit, I think is what I'm understanding from it.
Oh. So they didn't. So just because he didn't react, even though there's clearly a bite mark on the guy's hand?
Yeah.
Or arm?
Yeah. So Spanish Fork did end up winning the 5A state tournament, 331 points. Box Elder finished in second place, 319.5 points.
Oh, man.
Look at this, Alex. It's an 11.5 point difference. Guess how many points they would have lost if that kid was suspended?
How many?
12.
Oh, no.
So I think this is a hilarious story to bring up. Obviously, congratulations to Spanish Fork for winning. I'm bringing this up half in joke because I went to Box Elder, right? And I wrestled in high school. I think it's a funny story. The refs do a good job of calling these matches.
I'd be a little upset if I was a Box Elder kid.
But the picture of the bite mark on the kid's forearm is really funny.
It's very clear. It's very obvious.
But again, Spanish Fork is the winner, so congratulations to them. And you know what, Box Elder, I'll say this as a proud B. Second place isn't that bad.
Proud B.
It would be cool to have the banner hanging up there, but second place is good. So
hey, they hang banners in high school for second place.
Do they?
Yeah. I've seen plenty of schools that have the runner-up banners.
I have a lot of third place trophies.
Yeah, there you go,
It's kind of the same thing.
There you go. Third place is more of a participation thing, I think.
Oh, yeah, I would agree. All right, let's wrap this up, this segment at least. Coming up next, Alex, I want to talk about the Jazz rebuild as we near the end of this season. Want to really get into this and talk about how we're feeling about this rebuild with a couple games left and whether we think it's been a success or not. So we'll hit that next. This is the Saturday Show 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. It's the Saturday Show 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. I'm Christian Esparza, Alex Napoles with me. Thank you for making us a part of your Saturday mornings. Alex, let's talk some Jazz basketball.
Let's do it, man.
The season is nearing its end for the Jazz. Let's see, 4 games left. They play tomorrow at Atlanta. Then they'll host the Trailblazers. Then they'll host the Thunder. Then they will wrap things up at the Timberwolves by Sunday the 13th. So just over a week left of basketball.
It's gone by so quick.
It really has.
But at the same time, it hasn't.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would totally agree. As far as where they sit record-wise, 16-62. They have sole possession of the worst record in the NBA. For all you sickos out there, that would mean a 52.1% chance at a top 4 pick and a 14% chance at the number 1 overall pick. Alex, we know what this has been from the very start of the season. They called it a youth movement. We know it's a tank. So this segment, I want to spend kind of talking about what our confidence level is with the state of the franchise after this season. They basically handed the keys over to the young guys. 6 draft picks over the last 2 years. That's Taylor Hendricks, Keontae George, Bryce Sensabaugh, Cody Williams, Isaiah Collier, and Kyle Filipowski. And then you can throw in Walker Kessler, who was drafted 2 years ago. These young players have been seeing a lot of minutes, and it's all in the name of seeing what you got, seeing who's worth keeping around for the future. Not necessarily as building blocks. I don't think any of these guys have proven to be building blocks, but, at the very least, solid rotational players to keep around or role players or whatever you want to call it. But let's start off there, Alex. What, I guess, is your confidence level after this year?
Confidence level in the rebuild?
Yeah. And obviously, I'll throw this out there as well. A lot of this hinges on where they draft in June, right? The lottery is May 12th. If they end up winning the lottery, it's a completely different conversation.
I agree.
Right?
Yeah.
But let's just talk about it right now.
Right now, I'm giving it a B-.
Okay.
You think that's fair? I think B- is fair.
I have a different opinion, but yeah, go ahead and explain.
Well, I mean, because if we get to the point, like you mentioned, a lot of it, comes down to the lottery. A lot of it comes down to where you're going to be drafting. And if for some reason the Jazz's weird luck that they've had in the lottery continues and they fall, then what was all of this for?
Right.
Why are we doing this? Why are we here? Obviously, the tune changes if you win the lottery at 1, 2, or 3. I think the tune completely changes. But if you fall to 4 or whatever, then it just feels why?
Yeah.
Is 14% really that worth it?
Apparently. Yeah, and I think the thing with the tank, it's a hard conversation there. I don't think they're maximizing their chances at the number 1 pick because obviously you can do that with the 1, 2, or 3, right? You have the same % chance at the number 1 pick. I think they're losing as many games to raise their floor. Because with the worst record, you can only fall to 5. With the second worst record, you can fall to 6.
Right.
So on and so forth. And now, is there a big difference in the number 5 pick versus the number 6 pick and the player that you're going to get there? No, not really. But I think they're just trying to, play the game. They're trying to outplay the game, I guess. But let's talk more about the players on the team right now, like what they have shown.
What's your confidence level in this rebuild?
I'd say a C+.
Okay.
Looking at what we've seen, and obviously it's hard because they're all young guys. You would hope that they improve, right? You would hope that this is not the finished product that we're getting on the floor. Obviously, out of the players drafted last year, so 2024, that would be Cody Williams, Isaiah Collier, Kyle Filipowski. I think Collier and Flip have showed the most potential. And it's hard to grade Cody Williams because he's not ready body-wise, physically. He's little. He is a kid out there playing, and I think that's very obvious. But it's hard to ignore some of the numbers that are getting put out there. Like, historically, this is one of the worst rookie seasons that we've ever seen. And so it's like, yeah, you see that, and it's like, yeah, that's your, what was he, 9th, 10th pick? That's your number 10 overall pick.
Yeah,
but then you get Isaiah Collier at the end of the first round and Kyle Filipowski at the early second round, and it's like, okay, those guys have shown flashes of why they would be able to stick around if they continue to improve. Collier broke John Stockton's rookie assist record, which in a vacuum doesn't mean a lot because John Stockton was a backup as a rookie. Isaiah Collier has been starting every game since December, right? But it's still hard to ignore that. It's a good accomplishment.
Great accomplishment.
And not only that, I think it's very clear that he's improved as a rookie. Isaiah Collier playing in his most recent game where he had, 22 points, 0 turnovers. Much different Isaiah Collier than we saw at the beginning of the year. So you're seeing growth there. Kyle Filipowski shown a lot of potential offensively as a really versatile weapon. Defensively, he's okay, needs to get stronger, but there's potential. Then you look at guys like Bryce Sensabaugh, shooting over 50% from 3 since the All-Star break. That's value, right? Keontae George has shown the ability to put up numbers. Whether or not he can do that on a winning basketball team still remains to be seen. Again, it seems like anybody can come into the NBA and score 30 points nowadays. So I take those numbers with a grain of salt, but he certainly has ability. And then, of course, Taylor Hendricks didn't play much as a rookie, had his whole second season essentially wiped out because of the injury. Jury's out on him. But basically, looking at these 6 young guys, Alex, I really struggle with, okay, how many of these 6 guys, when the Jazz are a playoff team, when the Jazz are ready to contend and ready to take the step forward, how many of these 6 guys are worth keeping around? And it's like, to be honest, I'm not confident that maybe 3 of them at the most.
Okay.
Again, jury's out. I think Taylor Hendricks has a lot of potential still. I was really excited to see him rumor is he's added about 20 pounds of playing weight since his rookie season. He's allegedly going to be 100% by May. Should be able to fully compete in the summer league and things like that. So can't wait to see what Taylor Hendricks does. He brings a lot of interesting size and athleticism that the Jazz don't have right now. Kyle Filipowski could also fit that as well. And he certainly worked on his shot. Isaiah Collier as a point guard. He's got the size, he's got the smarts, and he's got the natural leadership. I think that's something that's been pointed to. So I think that's valuable. That's value that gets overlooked a little bit, is the in locker room leadership. But then it's like, yeah, Keontae George, has he really improved from his rookie year? And it's like, I don't really know if he has. And that kind of worries me a little bit. So essentially, when you look at 6 draft picks over the last 2 years and you're not 100% confident in any of them yet, it's like, yeah, what are we doing? If the Jazz don't end up with the number 1 pick in May, which there's an 86% chance that they don't draft number 1,
right?
It's hard to feel really confident about this. It's like, yeah, how long is this going to last? So that's where I'm at. I'd say a C+.
Right. And it feels like we're at a point where even if the Jazz do get the number 1 overall pick and they're able to bring in Cooper Flagg, how much longer before we stop calling it a rebuild?
Yeah. Well, and that's the interesting part, is the Jazz still have so many assets, so many tradable contracts, but they also still have good players on the roster that we are hardly seeing right now because they're trying to lose games, right? We haven't seen Lauri Markkanen play at 100% in forever. We are hardly seeing Colin Sexton and Walker Kessler play because they have to be held out. They literally got fined for sitting these guys, for tanking.
That's right.
So yeah, that's the other part of it. If you do get Cooper Flagg, you can flip that switch really quickly.
But it's not going to be next year.
No, I don't think so. But they could if they wanted to. If something were to come available this summer, let's say you already get Cooper Flagg and then a trade becomes available for whoever, they really could if they wanted to.
They have the assets for it.
But again, there is the possibility of, okay, let's get Cooper Flagg. Now, next year, let's go get Cam Boozer or AJ DiBonsa or Darren Peterson or whoever.
Right.
So, yeah, then you have your Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown. But I don't know. Just looking at where things are right now, I know there were a lot of Jazz fans that were upset that the Jazz didn't tank in the Wemby draft and that the Jazz didn't finish with a worse record last year as well. If you're 3 seasons into non-playoff contention and you have almost nothing to show for it, it's like, yeah, it's really hard to be excited about this rebuild.
It is extremely difficult to be excited.
This is just what I was thinking about this morning. I woke up and I was like, man, it's looking bleak.
It is.
And as much as I have enjoyed watching Cooper Flagg and as much as I really want him to be here in Salt Lake, I keep telling myself, like, man, I have to tell myself 86% chance that doesn't happen. They're very, very slim odds.
Look, I think you can look at it when I think of confidence, I think I look at it from 2 perspectives. There's obviously the confidence in what we're seeing on the court day in and day out, and there's the confidence of the plan.
Right.
I think I have confidence in the plan.
I would agree with that.
Because there's, like we were just talking about, there's assets within the war chest of the Utah Jazz that can be used to make moves. If the Jazz end up falling and they don't necessarily get that potential bona fide superstar that they're looking for in this draft,
yeah,
who's to say that next season or the season after that or even the season after that they don't go after, use some of those assets to go after somebody that's already within the league to be that superstar.
Yeah.
like we've talked about it before, like a Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. No, I'm not saying they're going to trade for Shai Gilgeous-Alexander.
But you look at that trade,
exactly.
right? The Thunder blew things up.
Exactly.
Traded for Shai and started the rebuild around. They already had all the draft picks, all the future draft picks. They identified a young player, gave up their stars for a young player, and then started the rebuild there. So, yeah, it's, the Thunder had their picks that would eventually turn into Jalen Williams and Chet Holmgren and all these other key players for them. But then they traded for the one that ended up being the franchise player.
Exactly.
So there are different ways to come about finding that player, whether it's through the actual draft or trading for him from another team. But those avenues are open. Again, the Jazz are going to have 2 draft picks in the first round this year, another 2 in the second round. We'll see if they make all those selections. I don't know. But then, they're going to have multiple draft picks basically every year for the next, 6 years?
So as far as the plan goes, as far as the planning, the rebuild goes, I still have confidence in that. There's still time.
Yeah.
There's still time. Confidence in what we're seeing on the court day in and day out.
Yeah.
Not so much.
And that's the funny thing, right? Like, it's so easy to say, okay, this is what we have to do. We have to tear everything down, trade Donovan, trade Rudy, build around young players. We're going to have 3 draft picks this year, 3 draft next year, then 2, and we're just going to accumulate all these young players, and odds are one of them or 2 of them will turn into a star. It's so easy to sit down and say that, but then when it comes to actually doing it in reality, that's the hard part. That's why it's so hard to succeed as a professional sports team, and it makes me worry because it's like, have we really seen this work out ever? I don't know. I think the Celtics are the best example, right? They kind of did it.
And who led that Celtics?
Danny Ainge, right? Go. So that, again, gives a little more confidence. But then it's like you look at the Thunder, it's working out for them. But then you look at teams like the 76ers and the Hornets.
The Hornets have been in a rebuild for as long as I can remember.
Yes, exactly.
And they got their guy. They got Ball.
Yeah, they got Miller. They have good players. They're just not a good team.
Yeah, exactly. They got their guys, but for one reason or another, it just hasn't worked out for the Hornets. And so that, I guess, kind of throws off my confidence too, right? Is who's to say the Jazz are going to go the direction of the Celtics or the direction of the Hornets?
Yeah. And that's where I worry. You've had these 2 drafts already where you've got 6 draft picks over the last 2 years, and none of them look like, I would say, key players. That's where it's like, okay, where is this going?
And I think, if you're a Jazz fan and you look at the direction of the Hornets, and I think the Hornets situation, it's just people in charge making bad decisions.
Right. I trust the Jazz as a franchise much more than I trust the Hornets. The Jazz have a long history of being a successful team. We are really a new territory for them. They've never been in a spot where they had to truly tear it down and rebuild. They kind of had a micro rebuild at the early part of the century. But man, you think late 90s, mid thousands, and then the late 2010s, they were one of the contending teams in the NBA. So again, being towards the bottom of the barrel, that's something we have not seen from the Jazz for a good reason. They historically are a good franchise versus the Hornets, where it's like, yeah, they historically are a bad franchise. Now, I would say, looking at other teams across the NBA, I know we mentioned the Celtics, we mentioned the Thunder as blueprints. I think the Rockets are another blueprint.
Yeah.
As a team that they were kind of bottom of the barrel, then middle of the league, and then now all of a sudden out of nowhere, they're the number 2 team in the West this year. And I think that was a huge jump that nobody was really expecting. And they're doing it all without still their quote-unquote franchise star player. I don't think they have that yet on the roster. So I think that's best case scenario is Jazz turn into that with all these young players. let's just say, yeah, Collier does hit his ceiling. Filipowski does hit his ceiling. Walker Kessler continues to play well. Bryce Sensabaugh is a really reliable player off the bench. Keontae George, you can rely on him for a spark. If all those guys hit the ceiling, then yeah, the Jazz do have the potential to hit that Houston Rockets level jump in the next couple of years. But again, you're counting on all of these guys to continue to take steps forward, and that's just not how development works most of the time. That's best case scenario for, we're talking about 5 guys right there. 4 guys, I guess. That's best case scenario, and the odds of that happening are slim. But it's out there.
Well, and like you mentioned earlier in the segment, it's obviously year 2 for Keontae George. But where has he really taken that big step forward?
Right.
Where has he really taken that big leap forward to become the player that I think the Jazz want him to be? And I don't think we've seen that yet.
No, not really. But again, maybe he puts in the work this offseason.
Yeah.
Maybe he realizes that. Maybe, the coaches get in his ear and say, hey, we need to see something from you. And maybe he takes it seriously and says, yeah, I got to put in the work. And then we see what the vision is. And I'd be stoked. I would be really excited to see that because he has a lot of scoring potential. It's just a matter of putting in the work on his own. And I think he could.
All it takes is that one guy to put you over the line. And I think the Jazz, obviously with the season that they've had, they're setting themselves up to have good odds to have a top 5 pick.
Yeah.
And if they can make the right choice and bring in that guy that might put you over the line for next season, I think we're one step closer to this quote-unquote rebuild being done.
All right. You are at a B-. I'm at a C+. May 12th is the lottery, and then the draft is June. I don't know the date off the top of my head, but we will revisit this conversation after the lottery. We'll talk about it.
See how we're feeling.
See how we're feeling. All right. Let's take a quick break. On the other side, we'll hit 5 minutes of. Got a few other things to talk about. I know RSL is playing later today. We'll hit that and some other quick topics. Again, that's coming up next. This is the Saturday Show, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. All right, Alex, it's time for 5 minutes of. Got a lot of other things to talk about. Not a lot of time left, so we'll kind of rapid fire through this. I was just chuckling to myself. I just remembered I went and saw the Minecraft movie last night.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
Why would you subjugate yourself to that torture?
I can confirm it is one of the worst movies I have ever seen.
It looks terrible, man.
If I wasn't there with friends, I would have walked out.
Oh, that bad?
Dude, it was
that bad.
It was bad.
Wow. I mean, I knew it was going to be terrible, but
it's just about as bad as you can imagine. It was rough. It was rough.
I'd probably go just to spite watch it.
That's kind of what I was doing.
I'd probably go just to spite watch it. My siblings actually went and saw it last night.
Oh yeah, what'd they think? Same.
I think jokingly they liked it.
Right, and that's where my friends were at. Is they were willing to laugh at how stupid it was.
Yeah.
It was too dumb for me. It was also weird because our theater was full of this is embarrassing, kids. There were a lot of children.
Well, I mean, it is a kid's movie.
I guess, but also I don't know, Minecraft came out when I was a kid.
Right.
Been playing it ever since. But so I don't know.
See, and I
think
that's where they went wrong with it.
Yeah.
Is they're focusing too much on the
kids now
rather than the kids that grew up playing this game.
Yeah, I don't know. It's hard to make a video game movie for 20-somethings.
Yeah.
But it's bad. Anyway, nobody really cares.
Good conversation to start. 5 minutes of Minecraft.
Last segment, we were talking about the Jazz and some of their young players and, our confidence level in them. I think we're both still unsure with Keontae George, kind of disappointed that we haven't really seen him take a step forward this season compared to his rookie year. I do want to point this out. The Jazz put a tweet out last night, and I think this is interesting to bring up. Among all of the sophomore players in the NBA, all of the second-year players, Keontae George ranks number 1 in points, number 1 in assists, number 1 in free throws made, number 1 in 3 points made, and number 4 in minutes this season.
Wow.
So that is worth noting. He's clearly one of the better players from last year's draft. And I think we do got to give him flowers for that, especially being, a teens pick. What was he, number 16? So I don't think he was even a lottery pick technically. So got to give him a shout out for that. But still, I think it is totally understandable for us to both want to see a little more out of him next year.
Maybe we just have our bar set too high.
I don't think so.
Maybe I do.
I don't think so at all. All right, let's talk 5 minutes of now. Let's get into some RSL. They are playing today at home versus the LA Galaxy.
They're back at home, back at America First Field. It's a little matinee kickoff, 2:30 kick. And I think this is both teams that need a result, man. This is the Galaxy are the defending MLS Cup champions, but they've had a really poor start to the year. They've yet to win a game in Major League Soccer play. For Real Salt Lake, coming off 2 really disappointing results, one at home, one on the road, scoreless in the last 5 halves of soccer.
Yeah, it's been a rough go for RSL this year. Still trying to find their groove, still trying to find their identity, I feel like. Pablo Mastroeni joined DJ and PK yesterday, as he does almost every week, and he was talking about, still not having that identity. And last year, they'd go down 2 or 3 goals, and they would still have confidence that they'd be able to have the firepower to fight back and make a game out of it. But this year, it's like, yeah, they go down a goal or 2 goals, and they hang their heads. They're like, yeah, we don't have a way to score goals right now. And so that's what we're dealing with Real Salt Lake. But sometimes it can come out of nowhere. So we'll see if that's a spark that they can find soon. It's supposed to be sunny, low 50s, so it's a little chilly, but it's sunny at the very least. I would strongly recommend getting out to America First Field down in Sandy. RSL games, one of the better sporting environments that I've been to, especially here in the state.
It's always a good time at the Riot, man.
Yeah, love it. So we'll see. Again, that is a 2:30 first kick and then a 1:30 pregame show here on The Zone. You'll be working that.
I'll be here. I'll be here producing it, so tune in.
Yeah. Let's talk spring ball. Switching gears here in 5 minutes of spring ball. Has BYU wrapped up?
BYU's wrapped.
Right.
They're done, but Utah's in full swing right now.
Utah is in full swing. I saw our guy Steve Bartle putting out some tweets this morning. They must be scrimmaging or having an open practice because the media doesn't get to see a lot of practice now. But all things are sounding positive regarding Devin Dampier and that offense from Jason Beck, the new offense that they are bringing in. So there's a lot of excitement because Utah has not had a good offense in a couple years now, and it's something that they're going to need if they want to turn things around. Coming off that disappointing year in the Big 12, we know the defense is going to be ready to ball out, but we just want something from the offense. I don't think they're going to be a shootout style offense. I think this is a team that is going to love running the football, but it sounds like, according to Steve at least, there is excitement.
And it does seem like they're in a better situation when it comes to the quarterback room than
I would hope so.
Maybe they were last season.
Yeah, because at the very least, first of all, you have Devin Dampier coming in, transfer from New Mexico, one of the best quarterbacks in the Mountain West Conference. I believe he won Player of the Year for the Mountain West Conference. Really dynamic on the ground. Not a huge passer, but he can when it's drawn up. But really, it's the threat of his legs on the ground that do it for you. And then, of course, coming with Jason Beck, the offensive coordinator from New Mexico, that's huge, keeping them together. So that's your starting guy. But at the very least, if he doesn't pan out for whatever reason, you've still got Isaac Wilson, who has a year under his belt. And I think has it come out if he's planning on redshirting this year?
Haven't heard anything yet.
It wouldn't surprise me if he wanted to a redshirt. But I don't know. At the very least, he's there. But Nate Johnson is another player that's been making waves as an athlete. So I don't really know what he's doing. I don't think he's necessarily playing quarterback, but it sounds like he might be a key part of that offense.
Yeah, you can't rule out Nate Johnson considering what we've seen in the past from him. Very athletic, the entire coaching staff already this spring ball has raved about Nate Johnson returning. I think Nate Johnson coming back to Utah is really good for the program. It's really good for him and really good for the program. And then, of course, you've heard there's been a lot of positive things said already about freshman quarterback Bird coming in and, as a true freshman and making some noise. And so I think they're in a position where, if for some, knock on some wood, if Devin Dampier gets hurt, they might be a little bit more set than they were last season when a guy goes down.
Yeah, and if Nate Johnson needs to take snaps under center, I feel like this offense is better suited to him. Not asking, he can play quarterback without having to throw the ball hardly at all.
Right.
In this offense.
Right.
That's what it sounds like, at least. So, a lot of good things coming down the pipe from Steve Bartle. I would definitely go give him a follow if you aren't already on social media. He's constantly posting a lot of his interviews and some of his takeaways, and then, of course, putting articles out for KSLSports.com. Kicker news. Dylan Curtis kicking a 55-yarder.
Hey!
There we go.
That's awesome. Kickers are people too, man.
Yeah, and
you need a good kicking game to be successful.
That's something that Utah hasn't had the last couple of years. So
absolutely.
That's good. Yeah, definitely go follow Steve.
I think the biggest question for me for Utah right now is the wide receiver room, man.
I mean, I get why you say that because they don't have a guy. But with what it sounds like they're doing, what it sounds like they want to run, all they care about is if their receivers can block or not.
That run heavy, huh?
I think so. I think this is going to be an extremely run-heavy offense, and I think Kyle Whittingham is salivating at the thought of that. I think
they surely have the offensive line to do so.
And I'm not meaning that it's going to be boring. You can run the ball without being boring. I think it's going to be extremely dynamic and creative in the way that they design these runs and quarterback runs, but I think that, Dampier's not going to be winning game. They're not going to ask Dampier to win games with his arm. I don't think so, at least. But, I mean, I don't know. We have an update here from Steve. Another great drive from Dampier, ending with a touchdown throw to Landon King. But on that drive, 10 different types of run plays, attacking inside and out. So
I think Landon King is one of the guys I'm excited for, man.
As far as receiving options, you bring up the receivers. I think receiving options, I would definitely look towards the tight ends with Landon King leading that group. The last 2 years we've seen Utah put out big numbers from their tight ends, and I think that's going to continue.
Landon King last year, was one of those guys where I kind of wanted to see more from last season.
Yeah.
We didn't get to see much of Landon King last year.
I mean, yeah, the offense as a whole. It's
true.
It's hard to evaluate any of that.
But I think Landon King's one of those guys that if you're a Utah fan, you want to see him take a big leap forward. You want to see him take a big step forward and become a big part of this offense. Another guy that I think people should be looking out for is Hunter Andrews.
Okay.
Hunter Andrews, who is listed as a tight end but can play just about anywhere on that offense. He's got speed. He's got hands. Hunter Andrews might be another guy to keep an eye on.
I think this is a key year for Utah football. They're at the risk right now of getting little broed by BYU. BYU coming off an 11-win season and then the awesome performance in basketball as well. I don't think that Whittingham and the rest of the Utah staff are sitting there caring about what BYU is doing, but it's like locally we care and fans care, and especially Utah fans. When BYU does something good, they expect Utah to respond. And I think that's what we're all expecting is Utah to bounce back because this program had been successful over the last 10-ish years, and last season was very out of character for them.
From what you know right now, Christian, from what you know, from what you've seen, from what you've heard from availabilities, where does Utah land this season?
Now, it's always hard because nobody's ever going to say anything bad in spring ball, right?
Sure.
But off of just what I know about Beck and Devin Dampier and Wayshawn Parker and what the defense does every single year, I think middle of the pack at worst, assuming that they're healthy, assuming that everybody's healthy. I think the potential is there to finish, with double-digit wins, similar to what BYU did last year. And then I would put the floor as middle of the conference.
I feel like for Utah fans, it's difficult to kind of gauge. Because it is a completely new-look offense.
It is.
There's some really good returning players on the O-line, and I think that's something to be excited about.
Very underrated aspect.
But at the same time, you look at all the skill positions, and it's basically brand new.
Yeah, they're going to have one of the best offensive lines in the Big 12. But I think the biggest thing that they're doing this year is that they're not planning on Cam Rising to be there. They're not going to be solely reliant on Cam Rising. Because obviously that's where it all went wrong last year is Cam went down and they kind of panicked and were like, oh my gosh, what do we do? Let's start our freshman at quarterback. So I think they learned their lesson. And I think that, Devin Dampier is the guy. But if need be, they're going to be prepared at quarterback should something happen. And I think that's the biggest change that we're going to see in 2025.
There's a lot to be excited about when it comes to Utah football, no doubt.
Yeah.
New look offense. Again, we've heard a lot of positive things about this offense already throughout spring ball, from the players, from coaching staff alike, from Bartle. There is a lot to be excited about when it comes to Utah football this season, and absolutely, when you're as a Utah fan, you only hope that you're back to a position where you can be competing in the Big 12.
They will be. All right, let's take a break. Coming up next, we will wrap this thing up, go through our daily schedule here on The Zone. We'll do that next. This is the Saturday Show 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. Welcome back to the Saturday Show 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. Wrapping it up one more time. Real quick, Alex, we were talking about Ovechkin earlier today. He tied Wayne Gretzky's goal record. Sean was telling us off the air, apparently they had an empty net situation where Ovechkin could have went in and broke the record, but he told his coach, no, I want to get my goal against a goaltender. I need a goaltender in the net to break the record.
He wants to earn it, man.
That's the hockey mentality.
Absolutely.
That's why we love these hockey players so much. It's just a different culture that I wish every sport had.
And it's something that's been kind of brought up a lot this week in talking to the people around the hockey club, right? Sly's been filling in on JJ and Alex this week, and he brought it up to Mike Fulton. Fulton basically was like, look, this whole load management thing, this whole sitting out players kind of wasn't a thing until it happened to Kawhi, and now everybody does it.
It's crazy.
But you don't see that in hockey. And Barry even talked about it, that mentality at a post-game press conference too, and said, look, if they can walk, if they can breathe, they're going to be on the ice, man.
Yeah.
It's not...
Even if they can barely breathe. Dylan Gunther shattered his nose.
Exactly.
He's playing
exactly, out, man. And I think it just comes down to a sense of pride, and you absolutely love to see it from hockey, man.
Yeah. Let's run through the schedule real quick today. RSL versus LA Galaxy pregame at 1:30, first kick at 2:30 here on 97.5 and 1280. Then coming up after that, Utah Hockey Club versus the Winnipeg Jets. That's a 4 p.m. pregame, 5 p.m. puck drop. That will be on 97.5 while RSL wraps up. Then we're going to have NCAA tournament coverage at 4 on 102.7 HD and KSL Sports streaming. Then wrapping things up, Bees at Albuquerque, 6:20 on Deck Circle. And the game starts at 6:35. That will be on 1280. For Alex and Sean, I'm Christian. This is the Saturday Show. Thanks for listening. 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.